Sleepy Hollowville, very sleepy, very hollow. The biggest event, Tuesday's 2-for-1 pie sale at Mrs. McFuddles' bakery. And the most exciting news, old man Wilbur lost his dentures again. Then the gophers arrived. Not just any gophers. These gophers wore tiny top hats and sported even tinier monocles. Their leader, Professor Fluffykins, a fluffy fiend with a passion for puns and a penchant for the dramatic.
Life's a stage, so why not make it sillier?
One morning, Sleepy Hollowville woke to singing, dancing, gophers balancing teacups on their noses. Yep. The gophers had transformed the town square into a vaudeville stage.
The townspeople, bewildered, but strangely entertained.
Mrs. Higgins, the librarian known for her stern demeanor and even sterner bun, found herself juggling. Not books, mind you, radishes.
Why am I...
Bravo! Encore!
Mr. Jenkins, the bank manager, always wore a frown.
Until a gopher, dressed as a miniature ringmaster, handed him a unicycle.
His first attempt, a disaster. His second, downright hilarious. By the third, Mr. Jenkins was hooked.
Who knew banking could be so boring?
Mrs. McFuddles, protector of pies and champion of crust, discovered a pie. Missing, gone, vanished. It was her famous blueberry pie, the one she had spent hours perfecting. The crust was golden brown, the filling was just the right balance of sweet and tart. She had planned to share it with the entire town at the annual pie festival, but now it was nowhere to be found. Panic set in as she searched every nook and cranny of her kitchen. She even checked the windowsill, thinking perhaps a mischievous bird had swooped in and taken it. But there was no sign of the pie anywhere.
Oh, where could it have gone? Mrs. McFuddles wondered aloud. She decided to take her search outside, hoping that maybe, just maybe, someone had seen something. She asked her neighbors, but no one had any clues. She even went to the park, thinking that perhaps some children had taken it as a prank. But all she found were confused looks and shrugged shoulders. The pie had simply vanished into thin air.
Then she saw it. Atop the town fountain, a gopher wearing a chef's hat balanced the pie on its nose. The crowd roared with laughter. It was an unbelievable sight. The gopher, with its tiny paws, had somehow managed to steal the pie and was now performing a balancing act for the entire town. People gathered around, taking pictures and videos, unable to believe their eyes. The gopher seemed to be enjoying the attention, twirling around and showing off its prize. Even Mrs. McFuddles cracked a smile. She couldn't help but be amused by the sheer absurdity of the situation. Her precious pie, which she had been so worried about, was now the star of the show. She watched as the gopher continued its performance, feeling a mix of relief and amusement. It wasn't the outcome she had expected, but it was certainly a memorable one.
Look at that gopher go. The little creature, after finishing its performance, darted off into the park, still clutching the pie. The crowd cheered and clapped, thoroughly entertained by the unexpected turn of events. Mrs. McFuddles watched as the gopher disappeared into the bushes, wondering if she would ever see her pie again.
"Well, I never!" she exclaimed, shaking her head in disbelief. It was a day she would never forget. The case of the disappearing pie had turned into a delightful spectacle, bringing joy and laughter to the entire town. She couldn't be too upset about losing the pie, not when it had brought so much happiness to everyone.
And just like that, the case of the disappearing pie turned into the highlight of the day. The town would talk about it for years to come, remembering the day a gopher in a chef's hat stole the show. Mrs. McFuddles, though she never got her pie back, was content knowing that her creation had brought so much joy. It was a story that would be passed down through generations, a testament to the unexpected surprises that life can bring. Sleepy Hollowville's annual talent show was usually predictable. Mr. Smith played the tuba badly. Mrs. Jones recited poetry endlessly.
I thought it would never end.
This year, Professor Fluffykins insisted on gophifying it. The result? Utter chaos. And the most fun the town had ever had.
I haven't laughed this much in years.
The talent show had transformed from dull to dazzling, all thanks to the mischievous gophers. The townspeople, once perplexed, found themselves in a situation they never could have imagined. Their quiet, uneventful lives were suddenly turned upside down by the arrival of the gophers. These weren't just any gophers, they were extraordinary. with a flair for the dramatic and a penchant for the absurd. At first, the townspeople didn't know what to make of it. They watched in bewilderment as the gophers performed their antics, unsure whether to laugh or be concerned. But as days turned into weeks, the townspeople began to see the gophers in a new light. They started to appreciate the joy and laughter these little creatures brought into their lives. The gophers' zany antics became a daily source of entertainment, a welcome break from the monotony of everyday life. Children and adults alike would gather in the town square, eagerly awaiting the next performance. The gophers, sensing their audience's delight, seemed to put on even more elaborate shows. Laughter, they learned, was a fine medicine for sleepy souls. The once quiet town was now filled with the sound of laughter and joy. Neighbors who had barely spoken to each other before were now sharing stories and jokes brought together by the gophers' antics. The sense of community grew stronger with each passing day as people found common ground in their shared amusement. The gophers had done more than just entertain, they had brought the town closer together.
Who knew gophers could be so entertaining? It was a question on everyone's lips. The gophers had become the town's unofficial mascots, their performances eagerly anticipated by all. From juggling to acrobatics, there seemed to be no end to their talents. The townspeople couldn't get enough of their furry little entertainers. Each day brought a new surprise, a new reason to laugh and marvel at the gophers' creativity.
They showered the gophers with gifts, tiny hats, miniature monocles, and even little capes. The gophers, in turn, seemed to appreciate the attention and the tokens of affection. They would don their new accessories with pride, adding an extra layer of charm to their performances. The townspeople took great pleasure in seeing their gifts being used, knowing that they had contributed to the gophers' delightful antics. Even a custom-made unicycle for Mr. Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins, the most daring of the gophers, quickly became a local legend. His unicycle stunts were the highlight of every performance, drawing gasps and cheers from the crowd. The townspeople would hold their breath as he balanced precariously, only to erupt in applause when he pulled off yet another incredible feat. Mr. Jenkins and his unicycle became a symbol of the town's newfound spirit of fun and adventure.
It's the least we could do for all the joy they've brought us. The sentiment was shared by everyone in the town. The gophers had given them so much more than just entertainment. They had brought a sense of wonder and excitement back into their lives. The townspeople felt a deep sense of gratitude towards their furry friends and were always looking for new ways to show their appreciation. From organizing special events to creating new accessories, they were determined to keep the gophers happy.
And so the town and the gophers lived in delightful harmony, their lives intertwined in a dance of joy and absurdity. The gophers continued to surprise and entertain, while the townspeople provided a loving and appreciative audience. It was a symbiotic relationship that brought out the best in both parties. The town, once sleepy and dull, was now a place of laughter and light, all thanks to their unexpected visitors, each day filled with laughter and absurdity. The gophers had transformed the town in ways no one could have predicted. They had shown the townspeople the power of laughter and the importance of embracing the unexpected. And in doing so, they had created a community that was stronger, happier, and more united than ever before. The town and the gophers had found a perfect balance, living each day with a sense of joy and wonder that would be remembered for generations to come. Sleepy Hollowville was never the same. Once a quiet, unassuming town where the most exciting event was the annual pie-eating contest, everything changed when the gophers arrived. These weren't just any gophers, they were performers, entertainers, and comedians, all rolled into one. Their arrival was like a breath of fresh air, bringing with them a whirlwind of laughter and joy that the town had never experienced before. The gophers, their vaudeville act honed to perfection, became permanent residents. They set up a small stage in the town square and began performing daily shows. Their antics were a mix of slapstick comedy, clever tricks, and heartwarming moments that captivated audiences of all ages. The townspeople couldn't get enough of them, and soon the gophers were the talk of the town.
On to bigger laughs. The gophers' popularity grew, and so did their ambitions. They started organizing larger events, inviting performers from neighboring towns to join in the fun. The town square, once a quiet place, was now a bustling hub of activity, filled with laughter and music. The Gophers' infectious energy spread like wildfire, and soon everyone in Sleepy Hollowville was caught up in the excitement. The world needs more silliness. The Gophers believed that laughter was the best medicine, and they were determined to spread it far and wide. They started traveling to nearby towns, bringing their unique brand of comedy to new audiences. Everywhere they went, they left a trail of smiles and laughter, brightening the lives of everyone they met.
And as for Professor Fluffykins, he was the mastermind behind it all. A gopher with a flair for the dramatic, he was the heart and soul of the troupe. With his tiny top hat and mischievous glint in his eye, he led the Gophers with a combination of charm and wit that was impossible to resist. He surveyed his domain, a mischievous glint in his eye. From his vantage point on a small hill, he could see the entire town, bustling with activity and filled with the sounds of laughter. It was a sight that filled him with pride and joy. He knew that he and his troupe had brought something special to Sleepy Hollowville, something that would be remembered for years to come. Adjusting his tiny top hat, he declared, "On to bigger laughs!" With a twinkle in his eye, he rallied his troupe for another performance. The Gophers were always ready for the next show, eager to bring more joy and laughter to their adoring fans. The world needs more silliness. The Gophers' motto became a rallying cry for the entire town. Festivals, parades, and impromptu performances became a regular occurrence, turning Sleepy Hollowville into a place of perpetual celebration. The Gophers' influence was undeniable, and their legacy of laughter continued to grow. And with that, the band played on, filling Sleepy Hollowville with endless joy and laughter. The town, once sleepy and quiet, was now a beacon of happiness, thanks to the Gophers and their unwavering commitment to spreading joy. And so the band played on and on and on.